Welcome back everyone to the channel. We're going to go back over another meta breakdown over this past weekend, which was going to be on April 12th of 2024 if you're watching this at a later date. We had the Philippine regionals hosted by Gamershop, and looks like it was also powered by Herald's Peak. And this was a 108 person regional, so this was probably one of the biggest regionals we have seen to date at this point for Grand Archive. So this was a really good, interesting breakdown of what type of decks people are bringing over in the Philippines and sort of how the meta might be different overseas instead of people playing here in America. But we did have, like I said, 108 people sign up for the event, end up showing up and playing. Some of them were round or two drops. But sort of what we had down in the breakdown, we had a lot of different decks coming through as a whole. We had about 18 Wind Tonys, 12 Fire Merlins, 10 Machine Gun, which I'm considering Fire Diana, 9 Wind Lorraine Allies, 7 Fire Luxums, 7 Erupting, 6 Water Arisanas, 4 Water Allies, 4 Fiza, 4 Fire Lorraine, 3 Wind Diana, 3 Arcane Rai, 3 Wind Crux, and sort of everything below that is as varied from Fire Domains to Sylvie to a lot of stuff in between. But a really shocking turn of events is that Wind Daenerys was the most brought deck in this regional. We're going to go ahead and cut on over to say what is the top 16. This was because 108 man tournament. 16 national invites were sent out due to the way the prizing system works. And over in there, we had 4 Fire Luxemdanders, 2 Wind Daenerys, 2 Fire Merlins, 1 Wind Lorraine, 1 Water Tony, 1 Erupting, 1 Water Diana, 1 Wind Sylvie, 1 Fire Xander, and 1 Water Lorraine allies. So with the highest conversion rate of the event was the Fire Luxem, as we had 7 players, went on over to 4, and then sort of in between we had the Fire Xander, which was about 2 players, not mistaken. One of them made it. Same thing with the Wind Sylvie. Wind Sylvie was 2 or 3 players, and 1 converted as well. And we had the Erupting Water Tony sort of thrown in there that had a decent conversion rate as well. By one of the worst conversion rates of the event was the Wind Daenerys and the Fire Merlin. Going on over into the champion breakdown, we had 29 versions of Lorraine brought into this event, 22 versions of Daenerys, 18 decks running Diana, 15 running Xander, 8 running Arisana, 5 running Rai. Sylvie has about 2, and then we had a Water Nico and an Allen as well, which is those little servers here that represent the one section. But overall, in the breakdown of the advanced elements as well, we had 18, pretty much round up to 19 decks running Crux, 14 of them running Umbra, while 13 of them have about Astra in it, 11 of them have Neos, 9 have some form of Luxem cards in them. We have 3 Arcane, and then 1 Terra, otherwise for our advanced element breakdown. Otherwise, everything else was running a range between fire and water and wind, of course, as their baseline. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go cut over to the top 8, as this event was a top 8 cut. We're not going to go break down the whole top 16 decks. We're going to go ahead and break down a couple of the different top 8 decks, what variances might have seen, what decks they were bringing, and sort of talk about the decks as a whole. Then we'll go ahead and get into that shortly. So, cutting on over to our first deck of the event was TKO. TKO did end up winning after top 8s. They were ranked about number 3 on the ladder, but they went ahead and won the whole event. So we're going to go over their deck first as the winner. So this is Fire Merlin. Pretty much standard Fire Merlin. You have your Merlin Kingslayer, you have your Grand Crusader Ring, your Sword of Seeking, Drawn Blade, Terrafring is added as well, Safeguard Amulet, and the Majestic Spirit as well. But where this list sort of varies a little bit is the main board. So instead of running the fast cures, we're running the 3 exercise curses, more likely expecting a Diana matchup, which is really good for it in this case. And usually as Merlin, you're going to end up having a lot more influence in your opponent outside of maybe a couple of decks. So having something like exercise curses is really well, since you're not worried about getting the heal from the fast cure. You have the 3 Honorable Vanguards, which is normal. Or Savage Slash. So this is an older version of Fire Merlin. Fire Merlin used to run Savage Slash for the floating memory. Sometimes they didn't like it because of the fact that this list isn't also running the Bulwark Sword. So you're just relying on Sword of Seeking to get these attacks in or attacking as its own, which is also good for pushing damage later on with Merlin as well, when you get the even level counters to get +2 attack. But Savage Slash also has that floating memory requirement, so if you keep on flickering your Drawn Blade or Pendragon, you're going to keep on using the floating memory that you're getting from your Savage Slash as well to get it back without going down on cards. Shield Mates, which is normal. Create a Shot, Cremation Ritual, sort of the staple fire package, as well as Fireball, Flame Ring Swordman. This they go a little bit slightly heavy into the ally kill. This is running 3 Focus Flames. It's not running Flame Sweeps because we're not running Sword of Adversity. We're not running Bulwark Sword. We're going with the kill line with spells. So Focus Flames deals 4 to target ally. Pretty much trying to kill up a Gildas, Lurking Assailant, Esteemed Knight, most of the units are these ally decks are playing with a 2/3, so pretty much want to go ahead and kill them as quick as possible without going down on cards too much, especially when you hit the level 2, level 3. You can go ahead and pay for this for 1 instead of 2. Going on, we have the normal Hasty Messenger package. We have 3 Purge and Flame. So this is a card that's been popping up a lot more. We've seen it in one of the Nationals list. I think we had... I can't remember exactly their name, and I do apologize ahead of me. Their name is escaping. Like, I see their face. I can't think of their name right now. They ended up winning a Nationals with Fire Merlin. We saw the Purge and Flame attack in there. Because of the fact it deals 3 to all those units except for your champion, you can clear the board of 2/3s, 1/2s, whatever mostly the ally lists are running. Unless just running something like Wind, which might be a little bit bigger, but does help damage the allies, so you go ahead and try and clean up after the fact. So Purge of Flame has been a really good addition to these decks. It does 3 to your opponent's champion as well, makes a little bit less math having to be dealt with the fireballs, and it sort of stacks up over time as you're just board wiping and adding 3 damage each turn to your opponent's champion, as well as clearing the board to keep up that tempo into your favor. We have the 2 Sparklights, good in case you say your opponent's safeguard emulating, or if there's something that's coming to prevent a couple stacks of damage, it's really good because this damage is unpreventable. And also when your mage deals 3, to once again clean up those. Burn to Ash is an interesting tech. Burn to Ash is a card that you're going to see brought in, probably mostly expecting a lot of water allies or something like Diana, because of the fact that this can hit Shadow's Twin. So clearing something like Shadow's Twin off the board from the Diana player really slows down their game plan to add a lot of Creeping Torments onto you. So being able to clear the Shadow's Twin, being able to clear a Scepter if you're facing a water deck is really strong to have, especially the fact that you don't have to worry about, say, running something like Meltdown, which is a cost more. Granted, Meltdown does hit an extra target with you, but more often you're using this Burn the Ash to go ahead and clear off your opponent's Regalia, which Meltdown isn't really needed unless you're facing something like a Fire Tony deck, but on average you might be a little outpacing them, be able to gain the health so you don't have to worry about it too much. So running Burn the Ash was a really good addition to this main board, replacing the Meltdown that you might be seeing from some other lists as well. The 2 default Cruxite for Ghost of Pendragon, probably one of the best cards in the game right now. Ghost of Pendragon is such a valuable card. Comes in for 2. You can flicker back your Drawn Blade, draw 2 cards. Next turn, get back your Drawn Blade. You really just keep on going up on cards in Temple the entire time. And the fact that if you are able to draw enough cards early enough, you can get down a pretty early Incarnate Magistry to go ahead and get the Majestic Spirit on the board nice and early. Looking into the sideboard here, we have the Quicksilver Girl, probably into something like the Erupting matchups to go ahead and protect the Nullifying Lantern. You have Viridian Protector Trinket for the Water matchup as well. Blanche, probably for the Mirror, probably for Rye, and probably a mix of Erupting as well, because Blanche can go ahead and prevent damage being dealt to you, since you get to nullify part of it based on the cards in your memory. Really strong card, really underappreciated card. I say if you don't own a playset of Blanches, pick them up. Granted, you only might run 2 or 3 in the deck, but Blanche is a really strong card, and I don't see it going away anytime. Disintegrate's in there, more than likely for the Mirror. Because of the fact that Disintegrate can go ahead and hit the Majestic Spirit of your opponent, you really want to have this in here so you go ahead and just clear up a couple troublesome allies if you're able to. Extra Focus Flame for something that's playing ally heavy, and then Spurn Ash, more likely, like I said before, for the Diana deck or the water list as a whole. But overall, this is your winning list. A little bit deviant from NA, especially the fact that some of the NA lists now are running Library Witch for another intercept unit. Because you're dealing with stuff like allies or the Domain Tony list, you want a couple different interceptors, especially that Erupting is now running Fiery Momentum. Being able to go ahead and absorb an attack and negate some of the damage is really beneficial. So, but this list decided to stick with its stalwart shoemates, end up working in their favor in this case. Congratulations again to TKO for winning the event. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and go into deck number 2. Going into our second place deck, we had Zeke on Win Lorraine Allies. So Win Lorraine Allies is a deck that's been popping up a lot recently. You've been seeing people like Matt G pick it up after the Nationals, started running it more in their regionals. So the way this deck works, you have Spirit of Wind, you have Lorraine level 1, Lorraine level 2. That's it. You have some cards like Drawn Blade, Life Essence Amulet to go ahead and get maybe a couple extra draws, one of the Greatsword to bump boost your units, as well as Poison Coating Oil. But otherwise, you're not seeing too much different as a whole. I did notice, though, and I do apologize, I didn't notice that part of this didn't copy over. So, ignore the 52, because they ran a legal deck. I don't know why this didn't populate properly, but pretty much the game plan. You have your Banner Knights, you have a Steam Knight, you have some Lurking Assailants, Squirrels, Ace, and Protectors. That's pretty much going to be your allies. More likely this list ran Gildas as well. Gildas is probably one of the staple units into these allies piles. So being able to just drop a bunch of units, bring in with a lot of value. Stuff like Ace and Protector, the bounce the Squirrels to get Ace and Protector in for basically free. Swing in again, play another Squirrels if you're able to. And then you have cards like Inspiring Call to go ahead and boost your entire board. Attune of the Winds are going to get everything a buff counter. And then Phantom's Captain, just pretty much buff your board as much as possible to go ahead and just keep on going sideways with a vast amount of units, and as well as boosting them up past those kill ranges of, say, Purge of Flames, Flame Sweeps, and other cards like that. Card that's been really good lately, you have Rally Advance. Rally Advance is one of the older decks that we might have seen back in Ascent Houston as well, because you go ahead and attack with your champion, then wake up one of your units. So if your unit is really buffed, you can go ahead and untap them, get a big swing with them again, really push that damage. One of the newer techs into this is Rose Eternal Pendragon. It is a Guardian Warrior, so it does fit into our class bonus requirements at the Intercept, True Sight, and Fast Activation requirement. It does require 5 being up though, so I'm not too sure how much this came into play. I've been trying to mess with Rose myself. I've been really iffy on how Rose itself fits in, because leaving 5 cards in your hand is really hard a lot of the times, and it requires a lot of thinking and planning ahead of time. But on its level 2 activation as well, you may pretty much give it Intercept for the turn, and then it gets +1 health as well until end of turn. Card's pretty good. I like the art. I'm a big Rose Pendragon. Second one as well, to wake up your target allies. Swift Recruit, another staple, intercept unit 1-2, also with floating memory, so you don't have to go down on resources. Go ahead and level up to your level 1 Lorraine. Veiling Breezes in here for, say, like Fireball or the Erupting meta, because of the fact that Veiling Breezes such a good card that prevents damage being dealt to you based on wind cards in your memory. You have so many wind cards in this deck that you're just putting a whole bunch of wind down into your memory, and then from there you're going to go ahead and just negate 4 to 5 damage at a time with Veiling Breezes. Let alone if you're able to stack 2 of them, you can negate a whole bunch more damage on top of it. Lunar Vanguard, another staple, 3-drop 2/3 with Vigor, so really good coming in. And then Zephyr is really good because you can go ahead and Zephyr at the end of your opponent's turn, the Terraframe or Materialization of Recollection step, or sorry, in response to your Materialization, you can go ahead and Zephyr it to get the Terraframe off the field before they pop it, so they can't really use it to negate your attack as a whole. Then in the sideboard, we have Fire Resonance Bauble, Grand Crusader Ring. All these are sort of normal. Safer Amulet, you have each of the baubles. Wind Resonance Bauble. You do have the one Train Hawk. So I imagine what the Train Hawk is coming in doing. The Train Hawk is trying to deal with the units that might go stealth. You have some of the level 3 Luxem decks that sort of give yourself stealth as a whole. I forget the name of it. I think the Water Allies Nats Xanderless does come into play. It gives yourself stealth or spell shroud till the beginning of the next turn. The Train Hawk can sort of get around some of those stealth units as a whole, which is really good, especially if Fire Luxem Xander is playing something like Vanish the Sight. Getting in for those 2 damage can really sort of determine a game at times, especially near the end of the game as a whole. But this is pretty much your standard Wind Allies list. Really good. Deck is really nice to pick up. If you've seen one of my meta tier videos, Wind Allies is sort of near the top of my meta tier list, if not tier 1. If you're going to a regionals or Sword Championship, go ahead and pick it up and bring it. But congratulations again to Zeke, and we're going to go ahead into deck number 3. So this one's going to be sort of a multifaceted. Deck number 3 is Fire Luxem Xander. This also had 3 other showings in the top 8. They replaced in the 5 to 8 sections. I'm not going to go over all the different versions here. But what they had, you have your Serene Spirit of Fire, normal list. This is running also the older version from Chessclub, that is the Ontario list. They're still running Grand Crusader Ring, all 3 of them in their main deck. Put Quicksilver Girl in the sideboard, and running Orba Choking Fumes as well when they were expecting a heavy erupting meta. So this list is going to look a little bit different. But for the most part, everything is the same as you talked about before. You have the 4 dungeon guides for the level up from level 2 to level 3. 4 exercise curses for the die in a matchup. Fast cure as well. And these are really good floating memory cards to discard off of you, something like your Creative Shock. 2 green, really good into, say, Fire Merlin, because you can discard their fireballs. You're facing stuff like Diana, you're facing stuff like Waterless. So getting those cards out of the memory can be really utilized for trying to slow down your opponent's game plan, as well as sort of seeing what they have. Especially in the mirror as well, you can try and hit their Luxem sites, you can hit their Lightweaver's Assault to slow down their win con as a whole. Jugger Knives, another good card. Replace itself in your hand. Resolute Stand is good in this match. It's sort of good in this list. There are some variants if you want to go back to Resolute Stand or Vantage Sight or running both. If you're facing something that's really ally heavy, Resolute Stand can really come into play as a whole, but it's also adding more cards into your hand, or sorry, into your memory that could be sort of dead at times because of the fact that you're paying 3. You don't really want to use the fast reaction you're able to, because you want to try and get your Luxem cards down into your memory. The fast activation is preventing, sorry, not the fast activation, the level 2 activation requirement will also prevent you from drawing a card on your next turn, where you're already sort of at times running a little bit low on resources as you're trying to hit that initial phase from level 1 to level 3. Your resources are a little bit low, so sometimes it does come into a hindrance more than it helps you. But it is interesting because the fact that you're dealing with a lot of allies lists, going for 2-3, a lot of 2-3s coming in. Resolute Stand really negates most of the attacks you're seeing onto the board, especially if facing something like Diana. It doesn't really prevent it too much because the fact like the fire Diana are swinging in for about 4 to 8 damage in a single swing, with Shadow Twin's buffing the bullet as well. So you negate part of it, but you still get the double Shadows Twin triggers. You're not fully preventing that until maybe later on turns in the game. I'm not really sold. I do think it can work in the list. You might have to tweak a little bit, but this list, as you said before, is very, very fine-tuned. So be very careful on what you're cutting and what you're tweaking due to the fact. We have 4 Scry Disguise, 2 Serum Wisdoms. This one isn't running the Wisest Trading Posts, none of them are. 4 Thieving Cuts, 3 Vanish of Sights, 4 Creative Shocks, 2 Planet Explosives. Again, all really good cards. All pretty much used to deal with allies, filter out your hand, get fast floating memory into the discard pile. You're going to use it to level up so you're not going down on your hand side. So a little bit different. Like I said, this is the Ontario list. You do have 2 Excaliburs instead of the 4, and it's still running 2 Uther Illustrious King. This could be a little debated on if you like it as much. Excalibur is really good because of the fact that it's fast speed. You can hit pretty much anything with it, and with it being fast, you can put your Luxem cards down into your memory if you want to at the end of your opponent's turn, so you can sort of play around certain interactions to go ahead and try and get the Xander triggers the most value they're able to do so. But like I said, this is an order list. All of them are pretty much running the same thing as a whole here for number 3. Congrats again to Artero, getting your invite, placing 3rd as a whole. Like I said, one of the 4 decks that made it into top 16, the highest conversion rate that we've seen at this event for decks as a whole. So again, congratulations on that. And we'll go ahead and jump into deck number 4. To deck number 4, we had the Machine Gun Diana, which is known as Fire Diana. So this is pretty much the game plan is get the Diana Deathstalker as quick as possible. You have cards like Carter to clear board for clearing interceptors and such, and pretty much try and get as many stacks of Shadow Twin as possible. The way this interaction works as well with the Diana list is that you can go ahead and load a bullet into the gun, swing with your gun. The bullet leaves the intent zone. You can load another bullet into the gun to get a second Shadow's Twin trigger. Try and push a lot of damage as quickly as possible. You do not get that bullet's secondary effect, but you do get the Shadow's Twin trigger, which is really nice to have as a whole. So the way this list is pretty much designed to work is that it's going to try and have a couple of chain sharpshooters, have shield mates to slow down a little bit, as well as resolute stands. Slow down the game plan a little bit if they're not hitting what they need to. But you pretty much want to go ahead and dungeon guide your way up to level 3 then, and then go ahead and get in the big swing turns as quick as possible. Adding creepy torment to say Luxem Xander list, Merlin list, and most other lists as well that want to draw multiple cards. So it's pushing a whole bunch of damage nice and early. Opponent. You have cards like Automaton Bomber that can do a couple things. Incinerate Shot, which is good because it has to deal 2 damage on hit as well. You don't have to worry about materializing it because this is a main deck bullet. Granted, it does not get renewable, so it is a one-time use bullet, but it is really nice to have as you get an extra +2 damage to the on-hit trigger. You have increasing damage. You have False Steps. You have Mindbreak Bullet and Umbral Tithe. This is, if I'm not mistaken, this is pretty much close to the list, if not the exact list that we saw Limelight running at one of the Nationals lists. But this list is overall pretty well paced. It went pretty low on my meta tier list. It's due to the fact that it doesn't have a lot of good matchups because of the fact you're facing something that's water ally heavy. This deck has a lot of issues with it. Or if you're able to answer into the Shadow's Twin, it really slows down and hinders the entire gameplay as a whole. But congratulations to Eon for going and getting number 4th with it. And we went over 2 more decks in this video. As I said, we had a couple decks in 5 to 8. 2 of them are repeats, so we're not going to go over those exactly. But we're going to go ahead and go over the other decks. Going into one of the 5 to 8 lists with Patrick, we did have Erupting. So this looks like the pretty standard Erupting list, a little bit different because we're not running the 3 Desolate Communions that we're running before in Matt G's list. So this one's running back to the only 1 copy. So pretty much this is a little bit of the hybrid. You have the Rain level 1, you have Rye level 1, and that's sort of where it ends. You have Bulwark Sword, you have Channeling Stone, you have Harp, pretty much trying to go down a little bit lower in the champion, but adding more responses to your opponent's decks as you're running the Verdane Patrick main, Terrafring. Like I said, you had your Harp, Safeguard Amulet. And then going over into our main list, we have the 4 library, which is 4 shield mates and 2 resolute stands. Hopefully trying to deal with those ally lists a little bit to slow down their big swings if we're able to. 2 cemetery sentry, the usual 4 clumsy apprentice, 4 creative shock, 4 cremation ritual, Ember Song Erupting. The fire momentum's in there as well for the big low range swings if we're able to, especially something like Bulwark Sword or sort of adversity, get the extra 1 to 2 damage. That could really help turn the tide of a game. 2 flame sweeps, hasty. 3 Innovate Furies, which is really good because you go ahead and D-level if you need to, as well as clear the board. 3 Spurn to Ash, 4 Tempest Field, and going back and adding the Varuk and Acolyte, another card to help you deal with, say, Nullifying Lantern or Quicksilver Grail, something that lets you sort of have to deal with the board a little bit more. And the fact that if you're using them like Harp or an Erupting, if you are already on to level 3, you can go ahead and get the extra +3 attack, because if you're Erupting, you're a higher level 3, 3 extra damage comes through for the Varuk and Acolyte, which becomes very well utilized as a whole. Then in the sideboard, we had the Arisana, which is brought in for the Dustlight Communion. We have another Resolute Stand, another Fireball if we need it, another Innovate Fury if you're facing something that's a little more ally heavy. You have all your different baubles, and they have a Spurnash as well, just to try and deal with something that, say, Nullifying Lantern is a lot, or say Scepter, sort of bring that in to try and deal with the board state as a whole. Congratulations again to Patrick for getting top 8, and we're going to go ahead into our finalists of the video. Diverse coming in with the Water Tony list. So Water Tony, this looks like about sort of the old school. You have a little bit of the Water Allies list as a whole. You're running stuff like Ally War Priestess. You have a Steam Knight, Dungeon Guide, Deflecting Edge, Lurking Assailant, and Sharpshooter. And then you have the level 3 Toneris if you need it to go on level 3. We're not running any other Neos cards though. We're just getting the Obelisk value if overall, especially if you have to go out and level up. And this also gives you another Scepter of Lumina trigger to deal another 4 damage to your opponent that might be able to seal the game. But going into the rest of the list, you have Freezing Hail, which you use to probably tap into your aggro list a little bit. Freezing Hail will go ahead and lock down your opponent's champion to lock down some big ally swings. So being able to lock it down does help, as well as sometimes that's an extra 2 damage onto your opponents, which is really big. Yeah, Frostbind, Frostborn Paladin, Snow Fairy. Overall, the generic list that you're going to go ahead and see out of a water list. The little difference is between this and some of the others is that the fact that we're Guardian. You utilize the Allied War Priestess, that it becomes a 2/3 as well as recovers 2 on the attack. If 4 into a memory, which at times can be a little bit harder because these water allies want to go ahead and leave 3 up in hand at all times. But it does come into play. Seeking Shot for the Allies Mirror. Then you have Stormathorns, which is brought in because of the fact you're a Guardian. The Stormathorns is a really good card. It prevents 1 of all types of damage to all of your a unit you control. And then from there, you are able to go ahead and deal 1 to the source, as well as a floating memory for your Guardian as well. If you're already level 1, you can use the go into level 2 or pay for a couple extra cards as well. And going into the side, we do have a Nico, which is really interesting. I do want to see, go into our glorious stats page. We do only though have 6 floating memory. I'm not sure how often Nico is coming into play here. I'm not sure what the exact list we're bringing this in against because of the fact we're not going to get a lot of lash counters onto Nico. So I'm really interested to see what Nico is brought into. I can't think of it too much what matchup you'd want this in, and then hinder yourself from going into. You have the Safeguard Amulet, Tithe Proc, Freedom Protect Trinket, the Mage Bane Lash because of the fact we do have the Nico on the side, another Freezing Hail, and a Frostbind as well. But that will do it, everyone. Thank you again for watching another meta breakdown video. We're going to have a couple more coming up as well. We had a couple big events in the same weekend, so we're going to have a couple more videos to break those down as well. If you like the content, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Comment anything else you want to see or any mistakes I might have made so I can improve these videos in the future. Again, thank you guys for watching, and I hope everyone has a good one. Peace.